how to price your coaching. Really popular question, really, really popular question in the coaching industry, especially for new coaches. However, it's a question that follows coaches through the whole range, through the whole course of the career, because you're going to get better at coaching. Therefore, that means your prices will be higher. You're going to be more in demand as your career develops. That means your prices will be higher. You're going to like to work in different sectors and change your niche, change what your goals are as a coach, change the kinds of offerings that you offer throughout your career. How do you know what the right price is for your coaching? And there are sort of industry standards, and I'm going to share some with you today. However, what's more important than that are certain principles to work with as you work out how to price your coaching. And honestly, I don't know how you're going to feel about me telling you this, but really there are no rules. And really the whole thing is made up. And that's one of the beautiful things about our industry. It's all made up. You have the freedom to create it however you want to create it. Tony Robbins, he charges, I don't know, $1 million for his private clients, I think, last time I heard. There are no rules. Whatever the market demands, right? But still, it would be helpful to have a sense of what the industry averages are, or kind of like what the curves look like, as a starting place to then see where you fit in and how you can begin to work with these kinds of averages. So the beginning is, let's say, a coach who just went to coach school and has studied and just learned all these coaching skills, has done all this practice, and really, really loves coaching and helping people. And this is also very exciting. And you have your peer groups and your dyad exercises and your coach starting to coach each other, and it's all for free and it's all pro bono. And that's really, really great because you're engaging with coaching from the point of view of why you went to it in the first place, which is helping people, and money hasn't come into it yet. So that pro bono, these are my guinea pigs, that's really wonderful. And definitely have lots of clients like that at the very beginning. And one of the nice things about doing it like that in the very beginning is you have a little pressure on you because they're not paying anything. So you have a little less stress about performing, of being a really great coach. Then most coaches will have their very first experience of receiving money for coaching. I remember my very first experience was my roommate who paid me $25 a session. We all knew she was helping me out. She knew I was a great coach. She knew I was really scared asking for money. I had no idea how to do that part. And $25, and it was so empowering. It was so wonderful that someone actually gave me. It was just the act of the $25. It wasn't like, ooh, $25, but it was like someone gave me cash, and then I had a session with them, and I was like, okay, this made it real. So we have our first few clients like that who are our sort of beginning level practice clients, when we're like, ooh, our identity on the inside starts to change. And then what? And then you're going to start to, depending on what world you live in. So there are many coaches who I've spoken with who will say things to me like they're charging $50 an hour per session. So for them, charging $100 an hour for a session is like, whoa, so expensive. Right? Or $150 a session is like, whoa, they can't even imagine. You might be one of these coaches thinking someone is paying $150 for a coaching session. That is so much, and my life will be amazing, right? Then you'll have, I had a session once with with a coach who had been coaching for a year and doing all the right things and was an amazing coach and still had no clients. And he charged $20,000 for a year. That was his starting price as a coach. It was like, wow, you've never even had a beginning coaching session with someone. How are you charging? It's like, well, I read this book and I know my value. So the trick is to get your pricing away from a sense of what this price is about. Okay, and I know it's not about your pride. So the quicker we can decouple your pricing from it meaning anything about you, the better you'll be at being able to determine what your rates are, charging useful, powerful rates for your clients and for yourself, and evolving your career and your prosperity. So industry standards, to just give you an overview, general overlay, I would say a new coach who's in the first year of their coaching practice, and this is in the United States, so you know, whatever part of the world you're in, you can sort of convert currencies to a certain degree, or think like, well, what does $150 get me in America, and then equivalently, what does $150 get me in the country that I live? But generally speaking, beginner coach rates are at somewhere around $500 a month. And let's say for 3 sessions a month, that comes out to about $160 a session, or $150 equivalent a session. And I highly encourage you not to charge by the month, by the session, never. By the month, even doesn't even matter. By some number of packages, 3 months, 6 months, a year, to give yourself and your client the chance to see results that actually stick. So whatever the equivalent is of $500 a month, so like $1,500 for 3 months, that would be a beginner coach rate, which for some coaches feels impossible to get to, and oh my God, that'd be so amazing. And then for a lot of other coaches, like, wow, I get what you're saying, Christina, but I don't see how I could make a career out of that if that's what I'm like. It's like too much work, too many clients. I won't be able to cover my monthly expenses with my family and my kids and all the things that I need if I'm charging $500 a month per client equivalent. That's just not tenable. Well, okay, great. So notice that whatever your story is about whatever that rate is, put that to the side and just follow along with me here. So the equivalent of about $500 a month for your packages at the beginning. Then after you get 3, 5, 10, however many you feel, you have enough experience and confidence and like, okay, this is a real thing and people are really getting value out of this, you begin to raise your rates. And as you do that, I'll share about how to do that in a little bit, but you end up at sort of the next average sort of tier of where coaches are charging. And I'd say the average, like a professional coach now who's been coaching 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, is paying their rent with their coaching business, no longer has a side gig, etc., is charging maybe the equivalent of $1,000 a month. So $6,000 for 6 months, or $10,000 for 12 months, or something around there, a little bit more, a little bit less, but we're landing at around $1,000 a month-ish equivalent for whatever your packages are. And then you fill up your practice at those rates, and then you just notice like at some point you're going to start raising them from there, because there's no cap on here. There's no rule that this is a top. From there, the sky's the limit. After that, it's just $20K for a year, $40K for a year, $70K for a year, $150K for a year. It depends on who your clientele is and what you're offering and what value they have on whatever it is that they're receiving from your work together. Okay. And there's something there that I just said that is extremely important. And this comes around your mindset around what this dollar money value thing is. It's not about you. I said that earlier. I'm saying it again. It's not about you. They are not paying you X dollars because you're worth X dollars. They're paying you X dollars because achieving this thing they want in their life is worth X dollars. So getting that promotion, 10xing their business, finding the love of their life, achieving this mission or vision for the world, creating this impact, whatever it is that your client is looking to create for themselves, that is worth 10K, 20K, 50K, 100K. Ultimately, our big dreams, the things that we're living our life, that we're called towards, are priceless. And honestly, us as coaches know that sort of the thing that they say that they want to create, the real world result thing, that is what makes them buy, the return on investment, etc., is part of the scene here. That an even deeper thing that's happening is how this person is changing and transforming and becoming more aware and more empowered and more happy and likes themselves more, loves themselves more, is changing the relationship with themselves on the inside so that for the rest of their lives, they're able to operate more and more from flow, right? That's really priceless, right? So in terms of what we're doing, it's priceless, priceless. In terms of how we're pricing, forget about you. It's what is the value of this thing for that person? And then there's a dance that happens in there, right? You are creating a business that, and what we're talking about here in my world with the coaches that I work with, is a high-end boutique word of mouth referral kind of business where you have 5 private clients, 10 private clients max, maybe some group programs, but that's it. You are not coaching as many people as possible and making yourself available to as many people as possible. You can do that, like I'm doing that with YouTube, for example. Absolutely serving my community in ways that are accessible. But the clients that I work with, I don't need that many. So whatever place you land at on your pricing schedule, you will find 5 or 10 people within the billions in the world who will absolutely see that price tag as the amount of value for whatever the thing is that they want to create. They just might not be in your current pool of friends. They may not be in your current network of people. So you may need to start looking in different places for developing new relationships, for helping and serving and inviting people and potential leads into your space to coach and support them, and then if appropriate, propose. But they absolutely exist. Okay, so it's a matter of developing your connections and relationships and worlds, pools that you're fishing in, for example, than it is about what you're worth. Okay. So that was a sense of, beginning, sort of average professional, and then it goes up from there. Another place I'd like to draw your attention to is executive coaching. So there are numbers. Your executive coach rates go from the 2K for 6 months to 100 million. Okay, I'm exaggerating. I know somebody who paid a coach $150,000 for 3 months of executive coaching. I had a conversation with this person. So for example, that's the top. But if we're talking general average, I'm in New York, I'm working as an executive coach at this company, at Coca-Cola, at a hedge fund, at this other company that has 500 employees, or some other company. As an executive coach, you're looking at a price tag that's somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000 for 6 months. Okay. So knowing that in executive coaching, cool. Are you going to start less than that and build your way up to it? Have you been coaching at those rates for years and just the thought of another client is making you stiff in your body? I just can't take one more on. Do you raise your rates? Are there people who will pay even more than that? I have a client who's an apprentice of mine who just charged an executive, a CEO, $47,000, $48,000 for 6 months. They paid. That's real. And it's interesting because when she had her session with him, like the red appointment, the powerful session before proposing, or a second one of those, told her rates, and it was the first time she did it too, so she was nervous, but she did it with a straight face. Told him the rates, and then he goes, "Wow, that's expensive. That's expensive. I've been talking with other coaches, and they charge half what you charge." And she said, "Yes, I know." And he's like, "Okay, well, I got to think about it. Let's talk next week, and I'll give you my answer." So she was very nervous talking to me. It's like, "Oh my God, and all the other coaches are charging half. Why would anybody pay me this amount?" It's like, I know it's that valuable for that, but I don't believe anyone will actually pay it. And she had her call the next week, and he said yes to her. And she was very, very happy, but also curious. Why did you pay me this when everyone else is charging half that you talked to? And he said, because I felt like you took the time to get to know me. Because she had actually served him in these two-hour powerful coaching deep dive actual sessions, did real work with him, really served him, slowed down, and really helped him before ever proposing. He said the other people felt like they came in with their PowerPoint presentation about their fancy system, training program, leadership, whatever, and they were trying to fit me into the box of their program. Whereas I felt like you took the time to understand me, where I'm coming from, and what I need, and we did work that was a lot more profound and valuable for me. Isn't that interesting? That's where you're coming from regarding value, really demonstrating for them whether it's valuable or not to them and at what level, by giving them the experience of the coaching before ever proposing. So you're never lying. You don't have to feel like a fraud. You don't have to fear icky salesy. You know, if you have a money story that $1,000 a month is so much, don't worry about your story, and don't jump into the people's minds thinking you know what they think about $1,000. Just let them experience the coaching, and then say what your menu is, and then let them tell you what they think about it. You'll be really, really surprised. Here's a little technique that I'd like to offer on how to figure out, as you're changing your rates, right? Or whether it's like an exception for a particular kind of client, or you feel like it's time to raise your rate because you're full, or because you're starting to offer a new offering, like now you're going to do group coaching. What do I charge for that? Usually it's less than private coaching, but I don't know why, because group coaching is so powerful. But anyway, how do you know? And there's an exercise that you can do. You can look up an article just Google an article by a guy named Michael Ellsberg called The Happy Price. That's my doggo moving. Okay, he settled. Happy Price, Michael Ellsberg, where you do a little body mind thought experiment for yourself, and you think, okay, somebody just rang the phone and is saying, "Oh, Christina, I'd really love to work with you. My budget is $500 a month." Equivalent, whatever that is. $1,500 for 3 months. $3,000 for 6 months, whatever. And then I imagine, I really, really do it. Okay. $3,000 for 6 months. What happens in my body when I really imagine saying yes to something like that? I know for me right now, my body doesn't even register anything because it's such a no. I just know that's very much outside of my range of coaching at this point. But you feel in your body, it's like it's almost scary, right? Sometimes that way too low price. And then you raise the imagination exercise price by some increment, by $50 or $500 or whatever range you're working with. So, okay, Christina, I have somebody who wants to work with you and they can afford $3,500 for 6 months. I'm still at absolutely no. Christina, I have someone that would work with you for $4,500 for 6 months. Still a no. Christina, I have someone who want to work with you for $5,500 for 6 months. All right, let's pretend. I'm like, okay. Christina, I have someone who wants to work with you $6,500 for 6 months. And it's like, oh, maybe I'm at a point in my practice where it's like, oh, that's kind of, my body's kind of like, maybe. I'm maybe interested in that. Maybe. Okay, Christina, I have someone who would at $7,000 for 6 months. And that's the first price where my body's like, yeah, I'd like to do that. Of course, I would love it with somebody paid me $20K for 6 months, but I'm looking for what's the lowest price that I would naturally, genuinely be happy and interested in working with that client. Okay. And of course, that sometimes for different reasons, with one client, that price is different than with another client. Maybe they're your ideal client, or maybe they're in a niche that you're looking to break into, so the rate would be lower. Or maybe you're absolutely full and you just can't imagine taking anyone on, and so you're going to raise your rates based on that's different than before. Or maybe it's somebody who you're so eager to help, you'll just do it pro bono or versus a trade. Go to your body and do the experiment and see what it says. Even if that's not what you propose to them, it's good for you to know what your baseline bottom level is. I highly encourage you not to charge or take on clients who are underneath that, because you're going to end up in a situation where you'll see their name on your calendar pop up, and it'll start to feel like you resent them, or you resent that hour somehow. Like there's kind of like a sinking feeling. You don't want to set yourself up or your client for that. So whatever scenario or situation you find yourself in throughout the course of your career, you can come back to your body and how you would actually feel receiving that with that client. Yeah. I hope that's been helpful. Happy pricing. Good coaching, coach.